But we will be recording this, and this information will be available at a later date, not too much later, on our website. And if you have other locations that you feel it's important to share, let us know and we'll put them on those locations. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And the League of Women Voters, I think all of you know, I think you all know about the League of Women Voters, nonpartisan. I think you're all members of this group. And if you're not, put it in the chat, and then I can, and where you, how you found out about this, and then I will tell you a little bit about the League at the end. So where does most of this material come from? It comes from a presentation that was originally done by the League of Women Voters of Southern Monmouth County. They did this for the primary, and then Megan and I updated it for the primary, and then also are doing it for the general election, because I tell people it's not really complicated to do this. I mean, you know, our purpose is to, you know, educate voters on how to cast their ballots and how to complete their ballots. And I think that you have to sometimes just let go of preconceptions. I do this on a machine or whatever, and then it's not that hard to do. So this webinar is aimed at people that are already registered, and a lot of people have already gotten their ballots, and we'll cover the vote by mail ballot, the deadlines, how to complete, and other points. And I put this little note in here because I forget this. All ballots are counted. I think years ago, if it was a provisional ballot, it was only counted if it was needed, but all, unless there's a problem why it's rejected, and we'll go through that, all ballots are counted. A great website to start is 411. That's our website. It has a lot of information on there. Actually, it's something I didn't realize, that if you don't have your voter ID, because that's how you sign up for some accounts on the state website, you can find out your voter ID number. So first thing I recommend people do is check your registration, make sure, and there's this link, and I will be giving you a link to one sheet that has all the links on it. So don't worry about copying and rushing to copy everything down. So you can check your registration at this website, or you can call the Board of Elections, or you can call your county clerk's office. The best thing, I think, New Jersey started this September 4th, and I think they've gotten over 200,000 people that have registered to vote using this link. And so you need to if you haven't registered yet, or know people that haven't registered, it's not too late. You have until October 13th, which is next Tuesday, to register. And you can go to this link. You need either your driver's license, which is the easiest way to do it, or a non-driver identification card, because they have your signature already. So you don't have to worry. And you can see on the back of your driver's license or the card what your signature is. You can use a social security number if you need to, but then you have to be prepared to upload a signature because they need that. Okay, now what are we voting on? Okay, we're voting on president and vice president, Congress, the Senate, so U.S. Congress and U.S. Senate, and some New Jersey Senates and Congress. We're not doing freehold. We're doing freeholder, sorry, in Morris County. Not all counties are doing freeholder, and local or town city officials and local Board of Education. I just really can't emphasize as much that the local, I know one of our members, Kathy Abbott, she lost her re-election bid, or her first election bid, I'm not sure, by like 5 votes. Imagine if she talked to her friends the next day and they said, oh, I didn't bother to vote for the local. Locals are really important. Freeholder decides how to spend your money, and the Board of Education decides where money goes for the kids, really important. There are also 3 constitutional questions. We have information, the league has put out information about the constitutional questions. They are on the back of the ballot. So it shows you on the ballot. You really have to be careful, make sure that you turn your ballot over and vote for them. One is property tax deduction and exemption for peacetime veterans. Legalizing marijuana is another one. Maybe it'll get some of the young kids to vote. And then delaying the state legislative redistricting process and use of new districts if census data is received after February 15th. That is one thing that the league has taken a stand on, which is unusual, but they've decided that we should vote no on this because their feeling is, and we have all kinds of information on it, that they are taking a permanent solution to a temporary situation that's because of COVID. Who is getting a paper ballot in the mail? Every active registered voter will automatically receive a paper ballot in the mail. They needed to all be mailed, and if you were registered, on the regular time, they needed to all be mailed by yesterday. I spoke to my mailman today. He said they're getting them out as soon as they get them. So I would say if you don't have your ballot by Friday, call the county clerk's office because you should have it. Just to clarify what an inactive voter is. An inactive voter is someone whose residency is in question. So for example, you got a ballot from somebody else, you sent it back to the Board of Elections, well, they put them in inactive status. If nothing has been changed within 4 years, they haven't voted or done anything, if they come off the rolls. To return to active status, a voter must request a vote by mail ballot. So because even though everybody now got ballots, you wouldn't have gotten one and you request that, and that will reactivate your status and means that you can vote again. Now, like I said, ballots are being mailed now. You should have them. Again, these links will be some of the clerks if you haven't gotten it, who you need to do. Be careful. We are not getting sample ballots. So if you don't think that the ballot you got in the mail is a sample ballot and you throw it away or put it in recycling. The ballots will look like this. They are different per county. This is Morris County. If I can get my arrow over there, Morris is the top left. That is a picture of what I received this time. Some of the other counties look a little bit different if you're in a different county. Now, what's going to happen is that outside ballot, that outside envelope will contain your ballot, a sheet explaining about the ballot, and an envelope to seal your ballot in. I will talk in more detail about that. And practice good citizenship. Megan, who's the librarian, came up with this expression. So if by chance you see the name is not correct on the outside of the envelope, it could be a former resident, could be, unfortunately, like New York City, they mess things up. I have not heard of any big faux pas like that in New Jersey. Just give it back to your mailman, say undeliverable, and then that will put that person in inactive status. And that's something also, if you move, if you're still within the county or even within, you can fill out a change of address form. You also should notify, like, let's say people moved here from New York to New Jersey, notify New York you moved, because then they don't have to go through the process of putting you inactive, still mailing you stuff, you're on the rolls, blah, blah, blah. All right, how do I fill out both sides of my paper ballot? It's pretty easy. Use a black or blue pen, not a pencil or a marker, and you've got to fill in the whole circle. Don't put a check, you've got to fill the circle in, because this is how they, when they get the ballot back, when they will scan this ballot. And if you received assistance, you complete on the flap that you got assistance. So let me show you that. So this is the flap, and any person providing assistance, and you fill that out, and then you seal it. Now, this is Morris County. This was my ballot. Different counties may have it slightly differently. And the ballot goes in the smaller certification envelope. Do not take off the certificate, because that's how they validate that it's you. So here's where the certificate is. And you see my stuff here. I didn't wipe this out. You sign here. They used to ask us some more information. You just sign right here, okay? And I will talk about signatures. If you misplaced, incorrectly marked your ballot, dog ate it, it came all crumpled, you contact the county clerk's office and they can send you a new one. Obviously, I wouldn't wait too long. All right, so here's the certificate. Your ID number is going to be right here. This is a scan barcode specific to you. So when your ballot goes in, they will do this. They take it out of the outside envelope. They scan it immediately to show that it's been received. And if you set up an account online to track the status of your ballot, you can check, and it's pretty much immediate because the database updates almost immediately. So, and that's a great idea to do that. Now, talk about signature. Your signature on file or in the email ballot must match your signature on file. So when you go to the rolls, you know, and you kind of sign upside down because you see, you know, you see what your signature is. Now, it doesn't matter if it's middle initial or the last name, that doesn't matter. It's your first and last name they're looking at to see if the signature matches. And so don't use your grocery store signature. And I will talk again about what if it doesn't match and what if you're, so you've got some options. What you could do, sorry, we hit a wrong button. If it doesn't match, you've got some options about, or if you're not sure, some options on how to change it. Okay. This is if someone else is bringing it to the post office for you. You're supposed to, or wherever you bring it to the box, you can't bring it to the polls, but you can bring it to the post office or put it in the box. They have to fill out the bearer part of it. So let's say you have a neighbor who's elderly and can't get to the box and you want to help them out. You can bring it and you fill out this portion that you did it for them. And this is the larger envelope that's out, the outside larger envelope for mailing back. That's this envelope. It's postage paid. Okay. Now you see this one, it has the bearer on the front side of the envelope. It depends on the county how they printed it. Security and anonymity. Why is the certificate important? The certificate contains the voter's signature that is matched against the signature on file. So when people go, well, all these people got ballots that weren't their names. Well, when they sign it and they mail it back, the county is going to say, or municipality, whoever's dealing with it, the signature doesn't match. We can't use this one. Okay. So they verify the signature. They tear off the certificate flap. Now they put your ballot still in a sealed envelope with no identifying information. So when your ballot gets counted, they do not know how you voted. There's no record of how you voted. There's a record you did vote, but no record of how you voted. All right. So again, void rejection. Don't wait. Election day is the day you get your ballot. People think you have to wait until the 3rd to mail it in. You do not have to do that. You can mail it or return it today. Day you get your ballot is your day of getting it. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm looking at the wrong screen on my thing. So don't forget to sign. Signatures. Okay. Signatures can change over time. And what's happened with that is the Ballot Cure Act. The League of Women Voters in New Jersey and the NAACP were very, very instrumental in getting this changed for the primary temporarily and permanently from now on, because that was the biggest reason things were rejected was the signature. So if they get your ballot, they look at it and they say, this signature on the ballot, on the certificate does not look like the signature that's in the roll book that's on the computer. And it's not one person. It might be me doing it. And I say, you know what? I don't think this matches. I call somebody else over to do it. And they look and they say, okay, I don't think it's a match. All right. What happens is within 72 hours, they have to send out an email or a letter or a phone call, however they have a means of contacting you, if it's up to date, hopefully. Nothing else, the address is up to date, and say, you have until 48 hours before the election is certified to straighten out your signature. It's called the Cure Act. And when I say 48 hours before the election is certified, that I believe the election is certified, I think it's November 23rd. So I would say by the 20th of November, you have to get this straightened out. And that now it's happened, it's a much different ball game in terms of ballots being rejected because of signature. So, and the other thing you can do, if you think your signature is not right, you can download the registration form or get it from us when we're doing one of our tables. We'll be doing Chatham Farmers Market and Morristown Farmers Market this weekend. You can get a form from us and you check change signature. That's also how you check if you changed your address. It also is how you change your party. That's paper that has to be received by them by the 13th, which is Tuesday. So you can either, like I say, you can either choose to update it or know that if it's not a match, it will be fine. And a lot of people that have said that to me for the primary, it was fine. They signed it close enough. And I know somebody that was doing some ballot checking, and she said she saw the signature didn't look quite, it was shaky. It didn't look quite right. She looked and said, the person's 90 years old. No wonder it's shaky. And she she said, this is a match. I'm not going to worry about it. Another rejection. Don't wait for, don't wait till election day. Get your ballot returned as quickly as possible. Postmark. Make sure if you bring it to the post office, ask them to postmark it if it's really close to the day. As long as the county receives it by Thursday of election day, so the 5th, whether or not it's postmarked, they will count it. If it's postmarked by November 3rd, election day, and they receive it by the following Monday, they will accept it. There's another thing, like I said, you can bring someone else's ballot. If they're not related and not in the same address, you can do up to 3 other ballots. If they're related in the same address, you can do up to 5 ballots. That was a new thing this year that they did that. And here's just a little chart to say, reason, this is from the primary, it's the whole state, why ballots were returned. Ballots were returned after the polls were closed. That's why they were rejected. I have to try and find out. I'm hoping Tanisha Way might address that in our last forum, the last forum that we're doing when Tanisha will be on, who's the Secretary of State in running the elections. Certificate missing, be careful. That's why you can't tear off your certificate. And if by chance you mess it up, call the clerk, they'll send you a new one. Signature does not match. This used to be the top reason. It's now 4th. And in Morris County, I believe it even went down to 5th when you break it out by county. People forgot to put the ballot in, they mailed without the ballot, various other reasons. But I'm so glad to see that signature is not the reason it's rejected. And I think ballots received after the polls closed, by having drop boxes and other means, and if you mail it, we got the ballots much earlier this time, I think that will not be a problem. So I am going to stop at this point before I go into how do I return my ballot and see if, Joan, I'm going to look in chat. I don't see, Joan, you're looking at chat. Is there any questions
Yes.
you want to ask me?
Not in chat, but I do have a question here related to what you just discussed. You said that if you're worried that the signature does not match, you can go at one of the farmers markets and get a registration form, or I guess you can go to a website and you will complete it with your new signature or your new address or your new email address.
Yeah.
And then can we bring it to the county clerk's office if the time, because you said it has to be received by the 13th.
Yes, you could bring it to them or mail it to them. It cannot go in a drop box, which is where you return ballots. It either has to be mailed or brought right to them to have that set up. So,
and the other thing, you said they would let you know. So if what they have on file is a home phone that you don't use anymore, you don't answer it because you have your mobile, or an old email that you changed because you were getting all this junk email, there is a risk that that you might not
they will
know
mail you.
that
The worst that
happens,
they will mail you. And let me put it this way, if you don't get it by being mailed, you shouldn't be voting because you wouldn't have gotten your ballot if the mail was incorrect.
Okay.
So that's the worst that happens. They mail you.
Great. Okay. Great. That was helpful. Thank you. The other questions can wait till after.
Yeah, I see if you write in a name and misspell it, will it be in then Heidi, you didn't finish that. Did I answer that question? That's in the chat.
I don't see anything in the, oh yes. If you write in a name and you misspelled it. The question's
not finished, so I just wanted to see if
you write in a name and misspelled it.
It's not finished, so I didn't want to see if Heidi had anything else or.
I think she's saying, will it be accepted or is that going to be rejected?
Probably if you misspell your name, yeah, I think so. I think they very likely will reject it if you misspell your name. I don't know that for sure, but again, they wouldn't reject it. They would reach out to you if they're not accepting it. That's the only way called a cure act. You can cure its signature. If you fill out your ballot improperly or you put, that's the other thing. If you can only vote for 2 in a slot and you vote for 3, none of them will be counted. So you have to watch that. If you can vote for 2 and you only vote for 1, that's okay.
I do have it. Okay, Heidi's question was about Oh,
I have a
was
question.
something, okay, unrelated. Okay, unrelated to this. That's fine,
Okay.
Heidi.
Okay,
No,
all right.
that is
Right,
related.
Heidi?
I'm talking about misspelling the candidate's name.
You don't write the candidate's name, you just check boxes.
No, no, if you have, it's a write-in.
Oh, I don't know, honestly. I think I think they want them to be pretty accurate, though. If I remember
Can I
from
ask another
past.
question related to
Yeah.
that?
Absolutely.
Why do we not have any other candidates for Board of Education? We only have one name,
In what town?
Morristown.
That's only one. No, Morristown has more. It depends which district. That means only one person's running then. Only
No,
one person stepped
I
up to
thought-
run.
The program I saw, I thought was four different candidates.
Well, there's different in Morris School District. I
You
learned
probably,
this.
Heidi, have the township.
Yes, Morris School District. There's three. There's the Morristown. That was the candidates forum we did. There's Morris Township. That was a different. It's not contested, so we didn't do a forum. And then I think there's also Morris Plains. Am I correct, Donna?
Yes.
Yes. So that's why you only have one, because there's only one candidate from your town that's up for that's
Oh, the other
running.
was, well, because Morris
Different-
School District is inclusive.
Right, but it was Morristown district within Morristown's it was Morristown. Yeah, I learned this on the phone call. Thank you for explaining it on the phone call now, ladies. You were wondering why I was asking. Now I can explain it. Okay.
But it does say write-in. So just because it says write-in doesn't mean if you have the blank that says write-in, it doesn't
can-
mean that they're accepting write-in. I think if Heidi was
No,
saying.
they always
you
have
can
to
write in,
accept the write-in. If you,
Okay,
they
so
always
you
have
can
to
send it
accept the
in,
write-in.
but you have to
You can
spell it
write it
right.
in, but I would make sure you spell the name correctly to be sure.
Okay.
Well, it's mute because it's only the one candidate.
No, but if there's 2 seats and there's only one candidate, you could write in a second name,
Yeah, okay.
whatever.
And the other thing, Barbara, if you could, since we are talking about if there was a problem with your signature, if you could just elaborate on your point that you made, that the way you can verify that your vote was accepted and recorded. There's a
I will
website,
get
or are you
into,
coming to
I'm gonna
that?
get into that. I'm gonna
Great.
get into that.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So how do I return my ballot? There's a number of different ways. Okay. I put this one first because to me, I'm going to tell you the different options, but to me, this one makes the most sense. If you're near a Dropbox, I happen to live in Madison. There's a Dropbox in Madison. So it's just as easy for me to do this. The Dropboxes are secure. There are 15 within the county. There are 39 municipalities. So almost one for every 2 or 3. That's, again, I will have a link, and I will have a link on my sheet at the end that you can go to, and it will show you the drop boxes where they are. So there's one in Morristown right by the county courthouse. There's one in Madison. There's one in, I believe, in Montville. I believe Mount Olive. No, I'm not sure about Mount Olive, but there's one in Parsippany. They're all over the county. You do need to put it in a Dropbox for your county, though. I did have that question the other day. They look like this. They are secure. They're watched 24/7. That's why they're usually by a police station or the town hall, because there are cameras there. They're emptied once a day by 2 representatives from the Board of Elections, and they're bipartisan people. So, and there's no way of identifying, there's no marks on whether it's a Democrat or Republican or whatever. So nobody knows whose ballots they're collecting, and they're watched, okay? And again, like I said, if you are bringing someone else's, you should mark bearer and put your information on there. Drop boxes are open all the time until 8 o'clock on election day. If you don't get it in by then, it's not counted. And I will tell you, on election day, these ballots will not be counted till the next day, because the Board of Elections will be closed by the time they get there. You can put it in the mail. And it's a prepaid postage marked envelope. Like I said, I talked to my postman today. They are working, they're making sure as soon as they get the ballots in, they're sending them out. And they're going to make sure it's, both ways, that they're delivering them to us, and from us, they're going to do it. Ballots received prior to election day are going to be counted starting October 24th, which is 10 days early. I actually don't like the word counted. They're going to be processed. So they're going to check signatures. They're going to pull the certificate off. I don't believe, even if they scan them, because they use a machine to scan them. That's why make sure you fill in the holes like you do on a, you know, if it was a test or an SAT or something like we used to do. They're not running tallies. They will not do that till election night. And like I said, don't wait till the last minute. And if you, you know, if you do insist you want to mail it, then just make sure it's postmarked. So if it gets there a little bit late, they have to count it. This is safe, easy, cost effective. Okay. The third way is at a polling location. You can bring your sealed ballot in both envelopes, the mailing envelope and the sealed ballot envelope, to the polls. You have to wait in line and sign the book. And you can only bring yours. You cannot bring someone else's to the polls. And the polls obviously are only open on election day. You can bring it to the county clerk's office, but even there beforehand, it's going to be a box that's right outside. Our early voting is by paper. And the thing that I really want to make the point of is that people want to go to the polls. Governor Murphy has put these mail paper ballots in place because he really wants to try and keep the voter lines short at the polls. There's only one polling place per municipality for most municipalities. And the reason for that is that they don't have enough poll workers or they were afraid they wouldn't have enough poll workers to work if they had more, like, you know, normally you have 4 or 5 in each town. They only have 1 per town municipality. So they won't run, they'll have enough poll workers. And you can only vote on paper no matter what you do in this election, unless you are blind. The only machine that will be at the polls is one for people that are blind, so it can read to them and they can have braille. So if you go to the poll and you do not bring your paper ballot that you received in the mail, you're still doing it by paper. It's a provisional ballot, which means you fill out a ballot and have to fill out more paperwork. And they will not be looked at. The earliest the provisional ballots will be looked at is November 11th, because this is what happens. They have to be able to make sure all other ballots are counted already. And then they go and do the provisional so they can check, did Barbara already send in her paper ballot she got in the mail? Well, we can't count this provisional ballot. So they you know, that's why they wait, and that's the earliest it'll be counted. They will count it if you haven't mailed in your ballot. And if by chance, you know, like something happens that, you know, you registered, you didn't get your ballot in time, or, you know, because you registered very late or something, or I'm trying to think what other situations might be. You didn't get your ballot and you didn't realize it. You know, you can still go and do a provisional ballot at the polls, but it will be paper and it won't be counted until the 11th, the earliest. How do I track my ballot? Okay. There's a New Jersey Elections, I believe .org is a phenomenal site. You can do everything on there. It gives you a lot of information. It tells you how to sign up for what's called a public access account. So you can check if your vote, if it's been received. You enter your information, and actually Vote 411, the league website, will bring you to this site also. It's a New Jersey state website. You vote, you enter your information as it's found in your registration file. So either it's going to be on the outside envelope, you know, be on the outside envelope, on the inside envelope rather, so you can write it down, or it's going to be, you can find it through Vote 411, and will give you, you'll put in your information, it gives you your voter registration number, your ID number. Now, some people have tried the driver's license number, it doesn't work. Well, that could be because they've signed up 30 years ago with their social security number. So it doesn't have the driver's license in the file. It's a little bit of a glitch that I think they're working to fix, because now when you get a driver's license, you're automatically signed up. So they're pushing more and more for the driver's license to be the way you registered, and that's your signature and that's all your information. Once you've created an account, you can log in to click mail and ballot history, and you'll see it will show if they received it. So they, like I showed you that scan, if they scan it and it's in the system, you will know that. They will also show if it's been accepted or rejected. My understanding was they do not show this until after the election is over. So you can't, it's not a way to see rejected, even if you saw it beforehand, you can't change anything. Like if something was, your ballot wasn't in there, or you scribbled on it and they couldn't scan it, or something like that, or the certificate was missing, you cannot correct it. And I know one of the questions I think somebody asked, another thing was, what if I change my mind and I want to change my vote? Well, just like in the machine, once you click it, you can't change it. You know, that's it. And you can't vote twice. That's voter fraud to vote twice. So we don't want to see people checking out if they could mail their ballot in and then do a provisional ballot. All right, important things to remember. The highest reason for ballot rejection is ballots received after the polls were closed. Be proactive, check your ballot, make sure, you know, all votes are counted unless there's an error. The national trend for vote by mail, it's extremely, 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 extremely low. Okay, it's not really fraud. There might be mistakes, but it's not fraud. And mistakes are usually corrected. So important dates. All right, October 5th, yesterday, the last date the clerks are allowed to mail your ballots. October 13th, voter registration deadline for registering or changing address, phone number, party. 23rd, that's the last date you can apply for a vote by mail ballot. And the reason this is significant, if for some reason someone is an inactive voter and they want to reactivate, they have to do it by this date. And then of course, November 3rd, general election. You know, that's the most important date. And be honest with you, and I mentioned that date, I think I said the 23rd of November, they may be able to count and say, we have, you know, this one won or that one won, but the election itself is not certified until, I believe it's 2 weeks after. So that would be November, where's November? November 24th. So it's actually 3 weeks after that it's actually certified and finalized. So it could be with the number of vote by mails, not so much in our state, but in other states, it could be a while before this election is actually finalized. Vote 411, great resource. It really does give you a lot of things there. Okay. The next thing is, don't forget to count, do your census if you haven't. And I say this for the census and voting. I always say, please, please, please talk to your friends. You know, peer-to-peer gets people to do things. Say, have you voted yet? Please do. Make sure your vote does make a difference. I think Kathy Abbott's example is a perfect example. She lost by like 5 or 7 votes. And the other thing is, you've done your census. Make sure you do your census. And please, you ask 5 other people or 10 other people to do it. So I want to thank everybody for attending. This is the URL that I put up. This is a link to my sheet. And I'm going to try, I have trouble sometimes copying and pasting it into the chat box, but I will do that. I'll stop sharing if I have to. Oh, and this is also the Morris County drop boxes. If anybody wants to see where their township is, if they're on there. And I'm going to skip that for a second and I'll go back to it. This is a voter registration form. So you see the checks here, vote by mail, you can do political party, signature update, address change, name change. Those are the things you can do on your registration form if you print it out. So let me go back to this. And I have to get that, I'm sorry, I have to get that link. Oh my goodness, I get upset because I can't copy and
Barbara,
paste
while
it from
you're
here.
doing that, I'm
Why
gonna
don't you
just
tell me
remind
if there's any other
people-
questions? Yeah.
Well, there are, and I just wanted to also ask the people to stay on the line because there are some interesting questions you might want to hear the answers to. If while we're asking Barbara questions, if you think of any that you want to put in, feel free to put them into the chat box. And if somehow I didn't adequately convey what you were trying to say, please unmute yourself or raise your hand and you can explain it more thoroughly. So I'm going to start with one of the questions that's in the chat. It said, I heard that this came from Helga. I heard that ballots will be counted immediately after receiving by the commission. Please explain because you made a different statement during your presentation.
So when when they're received starting October 24th, they will be counted, not before then. So it's 10 days. They set it up that 10 days before the 10 days before the election, they can start counting.
Okay, great. Did that adequately, Helga, if that did not adequately answer your question, then you can let us know. If not, we'll move on to the next question. But before I do that, I just want to make sure that I thank Barbara for an excellent presentation. She covered
Thank
everything.
you.
So these are just a few nuance areas that might be helpful. You talked about the importance of the Dropbox and how those mechanics work. Do I actually get a receipt if I drop it in the Dropbox? And do I get a receipt? What kind of receipt do I get if I go to the post office myself?
So you don't get when you drop in the Dropbox, you just drop it in. It's like dropping it in the Dropbox. It's like dropping it in the Dropbox outside the post office. And you, the same thing in the post office, unless you decide that you want to put it in, you know, do receipt requested or something, you will not get a receipt. The receipt is that you go online and you check through your voter registration, you know, to make sure that it's, you check that it was received. That's the way that's your receipt. And I will say, I don't know if I said it, the clerks are always very happy to help you if you have trouble. If you have trouble getting onto that link or just don't want to do it, you want to hear a voice because, you know, a lot of people want to do that, then you can just call the county clerk's office or the Board of Elections and they will help you. So the county clerk sends out the ballots. The Board of Elections processes all the ballots. And just to let you know, I did put in the chat, there's a couple of links in there. There's a link to my sheet, which has a lot of information with all the links that I had in here. There's a link to register for the webinars. There's a link to League of Women Voters events. And there's a link to the New Jersey voter information if you want that. Okay. All right.
Before I read the next question, I just want to let people know, all you have to do is touch on the link. It'll pop up on your computer and then you can refer to it later. So if you're worried about trying to write these down, you can pull out your camera and take a picture or just hit on it. It'll automatically create a tab on your computer. So when this call is done, you'll easily find those. Okay, thank you. I have another question from Penny. To clarify, even if we go to the polling location to vote, the machines are not going to be available. We can only vote with a paper ballot hard copy, and we will have to fill out the forms at the polling location. And I'm going to ask you a question, part of that, Barbara. If we bring the mailed ballot that we have, can we fill it out there? You said you have to come with it sealed. Will they have a table where we can go and fill out our own mailed one? So a three-part question there, okay?
So yeah, if you go to the polls, yes, you could, it's a paper election, basically. I'm trying not to use mail-in because it's a paper election. That's how we've done. Everything's on paper, no machines. And I didn't, and that was the other thing. The reason one of the other reasons they do no machines is because they couldn't clean them all. The lines would be out the door, you know? So no, you cannot vote on a machine no matter what. If you bring your ballot sealed in the envelopes, they have to be sealed in the inside envelope and the outside mail envelope, you can turn it in at the polling location. If you do not have that, because it has to be secure, you do not have that, you've got to do their provisional ballot. That's my understanding, because you just hand the ballot to them, it doesn't have your certificate, it doesn't have anything. So yes, you could fill out your ballot, but you'll still have to do the provisional part of it, just identify whose they are. Whereas when you bring it in your envelope, both envelopes, the verification is there, and you don't need to do the verification part of it.
Okay. Next question from Larry. If the majority votes no on question 3, the census, how is the redistricting affected?
I would direct you to vote 411 because they've got their they should have the platform up there. We could possibly send it to you. We have that. I think what happens if it just goes the way it normally does, because what the third question does, it delays. In other words, it won't be for the 2000. 21 elections, the change does it, they could do it for the 2022 elections. So it would just be the same way. I honestly don't know the total ins and outs of that, but good question.
Well, I do have a partial answer for that, and that is
Okay.
if you tune in, Larry, to the webinar that I'm having on October 30th, the Assemblywoman who was part of that number 3 proposition will be on the call, and she will be able to answer all of your questions on that proposition. What the goal is of it, if it comes out no, what the options are, and if it comes out yes. So that's going to be at 11 o'clock. There is a Zoom link and a registration link. The information is on the poster. And if you want to, if you have any issues or don't know how to find us, you can log on through the League of Women Voters and say, I couldn't find, how do I get onto that webinar? We should have it on our Facebook and our website page. So Mila JC will be on the call, and she will be there to answer questions as one of our panelists, and that will certainly be one of them. So it's a good question. We'd love you to follow up with that. Okay, we have another question from V. Lori. Many people feel strongly about casting their ballot in person, but I don't believe widely known that these provisional ballots won't be counted until November 11th. How and where is that information shared with the public?
I'm doing it through things like this. We're doing it at our voter, I call them tabling, they're voter information tables that we're doing through the League of Women Voters in various places. I'm doing it mostly at farmers markets. Doing a lot of publicity about it. I think a lot of people are not necessarily there, and I know other groups are doing webinars like this. So unless you listen to one, that nitty gritty may not be included. And it does say it on the state. If you go to the state website, they do give that much detail. So that's why I'm very much, when I go to most people tell me they voted, a lot of people tell me they voted already, but my next question is, do you know that even if someone goes to the polls, they cannot vote on a machine? Because a lot of people do not know that. And I was there in the primary watching some of the polling places, and it was a shame to see all the people that walked in thinking they could vote on a machine and they couldn't, and then it was actually longer they were there. This is the first time ever they're letting people bring the paper ballot to the polls, so that's a big advantage. So if you insist turn it in person, you can. You just can't vote on the machine. It's a paper election.
That's a very good question, because it brings up 2 other questions that are related, and that is, a lot of people don't realize that they don't go to their traditional voting
Thank you.
location
I forgot
that
about
they've
that.
always gone to. So I'd like you to talk about that. If they show up there, are there going to be signs telling them where to go and what the hours are? And a second piece of that is, I want to make sure I understand you correctly. If someone is unsure how to fill out their ballot, they got it in the mail, they said, well, I'm going to be smart, I'm going to take it because I hear I have to take my mail-in one for it to count and not be provisional, but I don't want to make any mistakes, so I'm taking my black pen with me and I'm going to go there and I'll have a pollster or a polling person help me fill it out correctly. You're telling me that if they do that, because they did not walk in with it filled out, sealed, and signed and ready to be delivered, it now becomes a provisional vote. So I just want to make sure I
Well,
understand that correctly. And how are we also letting
okay,
people
so
know that?
if they bring with them all their information, like the envelopes, and then they can put them in the envelopes and seal it, they can hand it in. I don't believe I don't know for sure, but I'm guessing, and this is a guess, and you know what you say about that, that the poll workers cannot help you fill a ballot out. You can have someone else help you, and that's where they would ballot. They would sign the part that says, if you can see, I don't know how well you can see, but that someone
Yes, we
helped me
can.
do it. Someone helped me do it. Okay. So like if
Yes.
you have an elderly person, like 90-year-old mother, this was a good one. 90-year-old mother, she can't sign anymore. She has to put an X. So what they did was, I think she's the power of attorney, and they did a form to change the signature to be X. Exactly how they did that, I don't know. I would call it the Board of Elections. That's very unusual, but it can be done. You have someone that can't go to the polls, or they need some help. They can have, now, they can go, if they can't see, they can use the machine that will read it to them or has Braille on it. But still, because there has to be, the poll workers can't help because you don't want to have any inkling, somebody helped me fill it out and they made me do it differently than I really wanted to do.
So you're going to answer the first part of that question was some people are not aware that the polling location has changed.
I know some people had mentioned this. I don't remember that. Maybe the town should put notices up in the locations where they normally go to. Can't vote here, go here. I don't know if the towns are doing that. I just made myself a note. That's something that would be the towns to do.
Great. Disabilities. And I have a question here. I cannot leave my home because I have a disability, but I am not comfortable putting it in the mail because of everything I've seen on TV. Is there another way that I can somehow vote? What do you suggest? Is there a means to see if someone can drive me? Is there some website I can go that would help me get to the polling place?
I know a lot of times individual campaigns will have people that will drive you. I don't know. I know in some towns, my friend does this in Parsippany, they drive people that can't drive. It's a senior citizen service. What I would recommend for that is, like I said, if you have a neighbor, ask one of your neighbors, can you please, you mark down bearer, can you please bring this to the mailbox for me? Bring it to the drop-off ballot box for me, or bring it to the mailbox for me. Have someone help you. But a lot of the times the campaigns and the towns sometimes will help you with the right. Because the idea is
Great.
everyone should be, and that's where the paper ballots allow so many more people that normally might not be able to get out or something to be able to vote.
Can I call the county clerk and say, I don't have any options, I don't know what to do, I can't leave my house under doctor's instructions?
Yeah,
Can I
I
do
would think
that?
so. And they may direct
Okay.
you to the town.
Okay.
They might direct you to social services.
Okay.
Hopefully there's a
Great.
way.
I just have a couple more questions. My child who was attending an out-of-state college is now home because the college is closed down for COVID and he doesn't have a ballot. I'm confused. What am I supposed to
Okay.
do?
All
He
right.
wants to vote.
If you didn't get your ballot, which he didn't because they're not supposed to forward them, and so the college just left it sitting there, you call the county clerk's office and there's some paperwork you fill out to request a second ballot. So, and that's like with anything. Like I said, got it, anything like that, you would do that.
Great. Now I'm going to ask the last question, but I'm giving you an opportunity for anyone who wants to put in another question. We
Or
still
just
have time.
It's a small enough group, they could unmute and just ask
Yes.
it even.
Let me ask this last question first, though. I've heard something about pollsters, poll watchers, and poll workers. I don't know the difference between any of them. I'm interested in being one of them, and can I get
Okay.
paid for it?
Poll workers are the people that actually are hired by the counties. It's all by the county, and they work the polls. They're the ones that when you go in and you sign the book, they say which district are you in, open the book, all this. They get paid, I believe it's $200. I think it goes from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. It's straight through. You get breaks, but it's straight through. Poll watchers, the term really is poll challenger. That is usually the parties designate someone to be a poll challenger. They sit at the poll. They're allowed to do it. They're legal. They have to be certified. They can't just walk in. So they have to be verified and certified beforehand. I've done that. You get a little card, you walk in, and you're basically there to challenge if there's something like the poll worker says, well, we don't have you in the book, you can't vote. You need to either see, maybe they're in a different polling location, or maybe they can do a provisional. So that's the poll challenger. They do not get paid, they're volunteers. Pollsters, I believe, are the people that do a lot of the statistics. That's usually hired by campaigns. If anybody knows for sure, I'm almost positive, but if anybody knows for sure, verify that for me, please say
Okay.
so.
I have two more questions.
Oh,
One
okay.
is, Penny says, this presentation has had some very important information. Polling station machines are not available, provisional ballots under certain circumstances. I believe many people are not aware of this. I am sure that many are not aware of this. Is there any organization that's trying to get this information out to mailboxes, calling
Yeah.
legitimately so?
Like I said, we're doing these events. There are other people doing these events. The state has things. Many of the counties, I know Ann Grassi did one, have videos on their websites. I don't know that there's anybody, unless it's maybe some of the campaigns, I think, are doing it in their literature. I got something from one of the campaigns in my town. I'm hoping, didn't happen for the primary, that when we get, because you will get an email from the county clerk saying where your polling location is, that they make it clear in that this is the only polling location this year. You cannot vote by machine there. I do not know of any volunteers that are sending out notes in mailboxes or calling or whatever. I know we're not doing calls, but we're doing it through other things. Campaigns, I think, honestly, are probably more doing that because they are the ones that want to make sure everybody votes. I mean, we want to make sure everybody votes, but they have a real vested interest in making sure everybody votes. So I think it's something you might want to look into. I mean, I don't think the league is doing anything per se. I don't know if the clerks in the county are doing it or the townships themselves, but those are some places, you know, maybe even Google in New Jersey, Morris County, how are people getting the word out? And again, the county, the Secretary of State for Board of Elections in New Jersey is doing webinars and things like this also. I understand totally, and that's why I say it's very important to me to get that word out because people don't
So
know.
Penny,
Sorry, long
no,
answer.
it was an honest answer. Penny, I have a 3-part answer for you. Number one, this whole presentation will be put on our website. And as I said, any other websites that you think will be helpful for people, that's number one. Number two, I am holding another webinar on October 30th for all these last minute questions once we really get down to the wire. And part 3 of that is the people that we're going to have on there, who I will mention to you right now. I am working with their offices and I will report back to them this week that we had this meeting and that people are concerned that their neighbors and friends don't know the information, that nor do they know to look for it or where to find it. So I will be letting our Secretary of State know, because her office, she's going to be at our webinar on October 30th. I will, and that's Tahisha Way. I will let the Assemblywoman, Mila Jacey, know who's going to be on our webinar. I will let the county clerk's office know. I'm not sure if they're going to be on our webinar, and if not, then Barbara Kuppersmith right here will be sitting in.
Yeah.
So that's a 3-part answer. I hope it helps. And talk it up everywhere you
Yeah.
go. Tell people to go to the League of Women Voters website, and that we have this, and we will have other webinars, this one around voting, we have one coming up around COVID, and we have one coming around social equality and justice around the census, and then mine again around protecting your vote and addressing all that we're hearing in the media, which brings me to almost my last question, because
Well, I'm just going to say, I did talk to a reporter at the, I think it's the New Jersey Daily Record, I think, that she wanted to know if there were issues. She's writing articles, so I will definitely let her know about this.
That's a good one. And also, I am working with the Morristown Partnership, and that is one of the reasons that we have a table at the farmers market. You can suggest people to come to our table and we'll answer questions. And I will ask the Morristown Partnership if they would be willing to put something up on their site.
And this,
and maybe some of the other.
And you can share this one on our website. It will be a link on our website to a YouTube. You can share that with everybody. Put it on your Facebook, whatever social media you use and stuff.
I have
like that.
couple comments.
I did want to ask one last, and then I'll open it up. Barbara, I'm watching all the media, and I am afraid that if I put it in the mail, my ballot won't get there. I would like to do something in person, but I am afraid that if I go to the drop box or I go to the polling station, that certain officials are recommending that people be there to watch me and perhaps intimidate me or make me feel fearful. Help me to feel more comfortable about my options for placing my vote, because I am nervous about every single one of them.
Okay. That's a good question. I am hoping, first of all, the drop boxes are monitored 24/7. So if someone is standing there trying to intimidate people, like I know in Madison, it's the police station, they're not going to let that happen. They will see it and they're going to come out. The polling places hopefully will not, that I think that will not happen either, because we are in New Jersey, thank goodness, and the poll workers check and they will call the police if something like that is happening. You can also drop it in the drop box at the county clerk's location, which is also the police station. And that's once you just drive up down Court Street in Morristown, and it's on the county clerk's street and the mailbox is there. I have to have faith that we will not have this happen in New Jersey, at least. And that the police will make sure it doesn't happen.
Now, I do have someone who's asking, who says they'd like to get a little more involved and they'd like to know where there's some opportunities to help volunteer to inform people about what the facts are with
Well,
this year's voting.
I will put my contact information in the chat. And, or you can respond to the, actually, I'll put the league, LWV, Morris, I'll put the league email in here. And you can respond to them, say you were on the call tonight and that you would like to get involved, and it will come to me. And if I could type Gmail correctly, that would help. Okay, all right.
So I'm proud to say that we have
Well, Heidi
completed,
had a question.
but I
Heidi
just want
had
to
a
say that we did complete within the hour. So it is
Okay.
now 8:30. So being considerate of people's time commitments. But if any of you would like to stay on, we have kept the Zoom open longer, and we will open it up to any other questions. Those of you who have to leave us because it is 8:30, we want to thank you so much for joining us
Thank you.
and being part of the conversation. We want to give a special who did an outstanding presentation, covered every area, and really helped to enlighten all of us on a lot of things that we did not realize with this year's voting mechanics. We want to thank her for that and look forward to her continued support in getting the word out to the league. We want to thank you all for participating, and we want to encourage you to attend our future webinars that will be as informative on the different topics that I went over before.
And I want to thank, thank Joan, because you did a great hosting job. I haven't had so much to do this. And the link to sign up for the webinars and it's in the chat if anybody wants to do that. So, and thank you, Joan.
So with that, we want to thank you for joining us, and we will stay on if any of you have questions or just want to share any knowledge that you have that you think is important.
Heidi, go ahead. Go ahead, Heidi.
One way is to contact Morristown Patch and have the links there, because people read Morristown Patch, I think, a lot, or the different patches for the different towns. Get that
for the township and
well, we have
Morris
posted.
Way.
We've posted forums are being posted there. The webinars will be posted there if they may not have gotten up in time for this one. Patch, tap into the media are getting a webinar.
Because I haven't seen.
But are you talking about give tips about how
the
like
changes, the things that you pointed out, which are critical.
Yeah. Okay,
And
good idea.
Talked about poll worker. I did that a long time ago. And if you don't want to work from 6 till 8, which is a very long stretch, they would be happy if you say you want to work half time.
Sure. I'll be honest, Heidi, I'm not sure they're doing that anymore because they don't have enough workers. They used to do half day. I'm not sure, but it's better half day. Right now, I think they're okay with workers, that from what I understand, at least in this area right here. I know my friend volunteered for Morristown. They said they have enough in Morristown, but they will get, because they're only having one poll. So they think they're okay. They wouldn't be okay if they had more than one poll.
Yeah, okay. That's my contribution.
Thank you.
Anyone else before we give Larry the picture award of today's
I
call?
know. I'm going to have to get that. I just found tapes from my father from when I was 2 or 3 years old, video, like reels and I just had them put onto a disc. And I'm gonna have to take a picture of myself from there and put it up. I think it's a great idea, Larry.
Well, before we close off the Zoom, I just want to give everybody an opportunity, once again, if there's anyone who didn't get to communicate something that they felt was important on the voting mechanics topic, I'd like to just open it up one last time. And again, I want to thank you all for joining us, and please join us for our other webinars. They will be just as informative on the topics of COVID, social justice, and last minute information on voting and protecting your vote. Do I anyone else? Well, I want to thank you all for joining us and look forward to seeing you at our next webinar. You can hit the leave button on the bottom right-hand corner of your screen.
Penny, did you want to talk at all? You want me to get in touch with you?
This is
You're on
still
mute,
being
Penny.
recorded, and
Why
also
don't
this
you
is still
stop the
being
recording?
recorded.
Why don't you stop the
Can
recording?
Rosella, can you please stop the recording?
Thank you, Joan.
Okay. Yes,
All right.
please.
It's still recording, Rosella.